This video is based on official FBI investigation reports and court records. The story you're about to hear represents one of aviation's most extraordinary battles for survival, a case where a deranged employee turned a routine cargo flight into a life-or-death struggle at 19,000 feet. April 7, 1994. FedEx Flight 705 prepares for a routine cargo run from Memphis, Tennessee to San Jose, California. The McDonnell Douglas DC-10, registration N306FE, carries valuable electronics cargo and a three-man crew preparing for what should be an uneventful overnight freight flight. Captain David Sanders, 49, brings decades of aviation experience to the flight deck. First Officer Jim Tucker, 42, serves as pilot flying with extensive Navy background and athletic build. Flight engineer Andy Peterson manages the complex DC-10 systems with professional competence. Hidden among them sits Auburn Calloway, a 42-year-old FedEx flight engineer deadheading as a passenger. This Stanford graduate and former Navy pilot carries a guitar case concealing hammers and a spear gun. Facing dismissal for falsifying flight hours, Calloway has crafted a plan so twisted it defies comprehension. His scheme: kill the crew with blunt force trauma, crash the plane into the FedEx Memphis hub to destroy the company, and make it appear accidental so his family can collect $2.5 million in life insurance. The methodical precision of his planning makes this one of aviation's most premeditated attacks. This is the story of FedEx Flight 705, how three professional pilots fought for their lives against impossible odds and saved hundreds of potential ground victims. Auburn Calloway embodies the dangerous intersection of technical competence and personal desperation. A Stanford University graduate and former Navy pilot, Calloway possesses the aviation knowledge and physical training to execute his deadly plan with military precision. Divorced 4 years earlier, Calloway faces mounting financial pressures while supporting two children he desperately wants to send to college. His belief that FedEx discriminates against him as an African-American pilot, relegating him to flight engineer despite his qualifications, festers into dangerous resentment. The final catalyst comes when FedEx discovers Calloway has falsified his flight experience records. Facing a disciplinary hearing scheduled for April 8, just 1 day after Flight 705, Calloway convinces himself that termination is inevitable and his family's future is doomed. His martial arts training and military background provide the physical capabilities for violence, while his aviation expertise allows him to plan a scheme that exploits aircraft systems and insurance policies. Calloway chooses weapons that will create injuries consistent with airplane crash trauma. The selection of hammers instead of guns reflects his calculated thinking. Bullet wounds would expose the attack as homicide, while blunt force trauma matches injuries expected from aircraft impact forces. His spear gun serves as a backup weapon for threatening survivors. Originally scheduled to fly as the flight engineer on 705, Calloway adapts his plan when crew changes assign him as a deadheading passenger. His willingness to proceed despite this setback demonstrates the depth of his determination to execute the attack. Before the crew arrives, Calloway boards Flight 705 and immediately begins executing his plan to eliminate evidence of the coming attack. His first target, the cockpit voice recorder that would capture audio proof of his assault on the crew. Finding the flight deck empty, Calloway locates the CVR circuit breaker and pulls it, cutting power to the recording system. This action demonstrates his intimate knowledge of DC-10 systems and his methodical approach to covering his tracks. When Captain Sanders, First Officer Tucker, and Flight Engineer Peterson arrive for their flight, they discover Calloway already seated at the flight engineer's station, a serious breach of protocol that immediately raises concerns among the professional crew. Deadheading passengers normally remain in passenger areas and never interfere with flight operations. Calloway's presence in the cockpit represents such unusual behavior that the crew members exchange uncomfortable glances, though they cannot imagine his true intentions. During routine pre-flight checks, Peterson discovers the pulled CVR circuit breaker and resets it, unknowingly foiling Calloway's plan to eliminate audio evidence. The voice recorder begins capturing all cockpit sounds, creating the evidence that will later convict Calloway. Calloway observes Peterson's action but chooses not to react, maintaining his cover as a routine passenger. He calculates that the CVR's 30-minute loop will override any evidence if he can control the aircraft for half an hour after killing the crew. The crew completes pre-flight procedures while Calloway settles into a passenger seat behind the cockpit, his guitar case positioned within easy reach. Flight 705 departs Memphis at 3:42 p.m. Central Time, with First Officer Tucker serving as pilot flying for the first leg to San Jose. The departure proceeds normally as the DC-10 climbs away from FedEx's massive cargo hub, carrying its deadly secret toward cruising altitude. The three-man crew settles into routine flight operations, managing navigation, communication, and aircraft systems with the professionalism that defines commercial aviation. Their casual conversation reflects the comfortable working relationship developed through years of flying together. Behind them, Calloway sits quietly in his passenger seat, monitoring the crew's activities and waiting for the optimal moment to strike. His military training taught him patience and timing, critical elements in successful attacks against alert adversaries. As the aircraft climbs through various altitude levels, Calloway observes the crew's attention patterns and physical positions. He needs all three men vulnerable simultaneously to prevent any from mounting effective resistance or communicating with air traffic control. The DC-10's climb performance allows rapid ascent toward the planned cruising altitude of 39,000 feet. At 19,000 feet, approximately 26 minutes after takeoff, Calloway recognizes his opportunity has arrived. The crew has settled into cruise procedures, their attention focused on routine tasks. Tucker continues flying the aircraft while Sanders and Peterson manage navigation and systems monitoring. None of the three suspects the violence about to explode in their cockpit, as Calloway quietly rises from his seat and moves toward his guitar case. The peaceful atmosphere of professional flight operations is about to transform into a desperate battle for survival that will test human endurance and courage beyond all reasonable limits. Before we continue with this harrowing sequence, we want to thank our viewers who follow through the pilot's eyes. These investigations into aviation security incidents help us understand threats to flight safety and crew protection. Your subscriptions help us research these intense aviation stories. At 19,000 feet above Tennessee, Auburn Calloway retrieves his weapons and launches the most vicious assault in aviation history. Without warning or provocation, he strikes flight engineer Peterson in the head with a framing hammer, delivering crushing blows that fracture his skull. The metallic sound of hammer striking bone echoes through the cockpit as Peterson collapses, blood streaming from massive head wounds. The attack's sudden brutality shocks the other crew members, who cannot immediately process the impossible reality unfolding around them. Calloway turns on First Officer Tucker, delivering multiple hammer blows that fracture his skull and drive bone fragments into his brain. Tucker's right side begins paralyzing from the traumatic brain injury, but his training and determination keep him fighting for aircraft control. Captain Sanders turns to investigate the commotion and faces Calloway's hammer striking his head 3 times. The impacts tear his scalp open and partially sever his right ear, covering the cockpit in blood as Sanders struggles to defend himself. Despite devastating injuries that would incapacitate most people, all 3 crew members refuse to surrender. Their survival instincts and professional responsibility to protect the aircraft override their physical trauma as they prepare to fight back. The cockpit voice recorder captures the sounds of violence and the crew's determined resistance. These recordings will later prove crucial in convicting Calloway and documenting the extraordinary courage displayed by the FedEx crew. Despite suffering traumatic brain injuries that should prove fatal, Captain Sanders and flight engineer Peterson rise from their positions to fight Auburn Calloway. Their superhuman determination to survive and protect their aircraft overrides the devastating physical damage inflicted by the hammer attacks. Peterson, blood streaming from his fractured skull, manages to grab the spear gun that Calloway brandishes as his secondary weapon. The 2 men wrestle for control of the deadly device while Sanders attempts to restrain the martial arts expert using techniques learned through years of self-defense training. The struggle intensifies as Calloway's military training and physical conditioning give him advantages over the injured crew members. However, his opponents possess something more powerful than martial arts skills: the desperate courage of men fighting for their lives and professional duty. First Officer Tucker, despite partial paralysis from his skull fracture, maintains control of the DC-10 while coordinating with his fellow crew members' battle. His ability to fly the aircraft with a traumatic brain injury represents an almost superhuman feat of professional competence. Recognizing that conventional flight cannot help his colleagues overcome their attacker, Tucker makes an unprecedented decision. He will use the DC-10 itself as a weapon against Calloway. The aircraft's massive size and weight become tools in the fight for survival. Tucker banks the aircraft into violent maneuvers designed to throw the combatants off balance and give his crewmates advantages in their physical struggle. These aerobatic maneuvers push the DC-10 beyond its certified flight envelope. The three-way struggle continues throughout the cockpit and forward cabin area as the aircraft performs impossible maneuvers at dangerous altitudes. First Officer Tucker executes the most extraordinary flying in commercial aviation history, using a 300-ton DC-10 cargo jet as a weapon against Auburn Calloway. Despite traumatic brain injury and progressive paralysis, Tucker performs violent aerobatic maneuvers that throw the combatants around the cockpit. Tucker pulls the aircraft into a barrel roll at 400 miles per hour, inverting the massive DC-10 and creating temporary weightlessness that disrupts Calloway's attacks. The aircraft was never designed for such maneuvers, and Tucker risks structural failure with every extreme attitude change. The violent maneuvering throws Sanders, Peterson, and Calloway toward the rear of the aircraft, buying precious time for the crew members to coordinate their resistance. Calloway drops his spear gun during the weightless moments, reducing his ability to threaten the crew. While his aircraft tumbles through impossible attitudes at dangerous speeds, Tucker manages to declare an emergency and request immediate return to Memphis. Air traffic controllers, hearing the chaos in the background, clear all traffic and prepare emergency services for Flight 705's return. The aerobatic flight continues for several minutes as the crew battles Calloway throughout the cockpit and forward cabin. At times, no one controls the aircraft as all four men struggle in the cabin area, yet the DC-10 somehow maintains flying speed and altitude. Tucker's decision to leave the controls and assist his crewmates creates moments where the aircraft flies completely uncontrolled. Memphis Air Traffic Control loses radio contact and fears the worst as Flight 705 disappears from their radar scope. The combination of extreme maneuvering and blood loss begins taking its toll on all combatants. Sanders and Peterson grow weaker while Calloway, though uninjured, faces the overwhelming challenge of fighting three determined opponents. Through sheer determination and teamwork, Captain Sanders and Flight Engineer Peterson finally overcome Auburn Calloway despite their life-threatening injuries. The combination of their resistance and Tucker's violent aircraft maneuvering exhausts Calloway's ability to maintain his attack. Sanders and Peterson manage to pin Calloway down in the cabin area, using their combined weight and remaining strength to prevent him from reaching any additional weapons. The martial arts expert finds himself overwhelmed by the desperate courage of men fighting for their lives. With Calloway restrained, Sanders returns to the cockpit to assist Tucker, who continues flying despite partial paralysis and traumatic brain injury. The two pilots coordinate their efforts to bring the damaged aircraft back to Memphis for an emergency landing. Tucker's medical condition deteriorates as brain swelling affects his motor functions. Sanders takes primary control of the DC-10 while Tucker provides assistance with his remaining capabilities, demonstrating extraordinary crew resource management under impossible conditions. The aircraft's condition reflects the violent struggle that occurred throughout its interior. Blood covers the cockpit surfaces, control panels show impact damage, and the spear gun remains lodged in instrument panels after Calloway's failed attacks. As Flight 705 approaches Memphis, the crew faces additional challenges. The aircraft carries full fuel loads and cargo, making it 16,000 kilograms over maximum landing weight. Emergency fuel dumping is impossible, with Sanders unable to leave his pilot's seat. Despite overwhelming obstacles, the FedEx crew prepares for an overweight landing that will test both their skills and the DC-10's structural limits. Their survival depends on executing a perfect approach under conditions that would challenge healthy, uninjured pilots. Captain Sanders lines up Flight 705 for runway 36L at Memphis International Airport, fighting through severe injuries and blood loss to execute one of aviation's most challenging emergency landings. The aircraft approaches too fast, too high, and grossly overweight, with no opportunity for fuel dumping. Memphis emergency services prepare for the worst, as Flight 705 appears on final approach with unknown crew conditions and potential hijackers still aboard. Fire trucks and ambulances position themselves along the runway as controllers clear all other traffic. Sanders performs a steep descent and tight turn to align with the runway, generating GPWS warnings and attitude alerts that fill the cockpit with cautionary sounds. The DC-10 responds sluggishly to control inputs due to its excessive weight and high approach speed. Tucker assists with landing procedures despite his deteriorating condition, calling out altitudes and airspeeds while Sanders focuses on aircraft control. Their coordination reflects years of professional training maintained even under extreme physical duress. The DC-10 touches down hard on runway 36L, its landing gear absorbing tremendous loads as Sanders applies maximum braking to stop the overweight aircraft. The tires smoke and the brakes heat to dangerous temperatures as the massive jet decelerates. Flight 705 finally stops on the runway after an approach that violated numerous safety parameters but succeeded in bringing the crew home alive. Emergency personnel immediately surround the aircraft while police prepare to board through emergency slides. When responders enter the cabin, they discover a blood-soaked cockpit, 4 injured men, and evidence of the most violent struggle in commercial aviation history. As we conclude this investigation into one of aviation's most heroic survival stories, we thank our viewers who follow through the pilot's eyes. These studies of crew courage and aviation security help us understand threats to flight safety. Your support allows us to research these extraordinary aviation stories. Auburn Calloway receives 2 consecutive life sentences without parole for attempted air piracy and interference with flight operations. He remains imprisoned at United States Penitentiary McCreary in Kentucky. his plan to destroy FedEx and benefit his family having failed completely. Captain David Sanders, First Officer Jim Tucker, and Flight Engineer Andy Peterson received the Airline Pilots Association Gold Medal for heroism, the highest award civilian pilots can earn. Their extraordinary courage saves not only their own lives, but potentially hundreds on the ground. The three heroes pay a devastating price for their survival. None will ever fly commercially again due to their severe brain injuries and physical disabilities. Tucker suffers permanent paralysis and blindness, while Sanders and Peterson endure lasting neurological damage. The incident transforms aviation security procedures and deadheading policies. FedEx eliminates employee jump-seating privileges except for business travel, recognizing the vulnerability created by allowing unlimited employee access to cockpits. The aircraft N306FE undergoes extensive repairs and returns to service, operating successfully for FedEx until retirement in 2023. The DC-10's structural integrity during extreme maneuvering demonstrates the aircraft's robust design under impossible conditions. Federal aviation authorities enhance screening procedures for airline employees and implement additional safeguards against insider threats. The case becomes a landmark study in aviation security and crew resource management under extreme duress. The heroism displayed by the FedEx 705 crew inspires enhanced training programs for dealing with violent passengers and reinforces the principle that flight crews will sacrifice everything to protect aviation safety.